Hello, Camden Catholic. In honor of AAPI Month, Asian American Pacific Islander Month, today we are fortunate to have Congressman Andy Kim with us today. He is the representative of the 3rd Congressional District of New Jersey, former Rhodes Scholar, and also former White House security official. It's an honor to be with you today, Congressman, and just have some questions about your heritage and things that you do in public service. So the first question I want to ask, just talk to me about your Asian American heritage and the significance of your culture and your Korean American upbringing.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me, and I just want to say hey to all the students out there watching this. Thanks so much for taking a little time. For me, in terms of my heritage, as you said, I was born here in the United States, the son of Korean immigrants, and I'll be honest, I had a complicated relationship to being Korean American, to being Asian American. I went to a Korean American church when I was younger, and I definitely had some places where I started to learn more about the culture and the experience. But I also often felt like I often felt frustrated when I felt like people were only seeing me through that lens of being Asian American, and I got so many of those questions about where are you from, or where do you come from, and things like that just bothered me so much. So I've kind of gone back and forth. But look, I mean, I'm proud to be Asian American. I'm proud to raise 2 baby boys that are Asian American just down the road from where I grew up. And and in Congress, when I was first elected, I was then the only Korean American in Congress. And I'm the youngest Asian American elected to federal office in the entire country. And so I appreciate my ability to be able to represent some diversity across Congress and across our government. So, those are some of the things that it's meant to me.
The second question I want to ask is what experience that maybe that you had in high school or just experiences in life that helped you or led you to get into your public service career that you are in today?
Yeah. So when I was in high school, I was actually in Cherry Hill. So I went to Cherry Hill East High School, not too far from you all. And I guess for me, it was in high school that I started to do some different community service efforts, volunteering at the local hospital and things like that. My mom was a nurse, so that was a very formative experience for me to just start to understand what it means to do that kind of work and to kind of engage in community service. And I was really intrigued by that, but it wasn't until I went to college where it really started to solidify. So I was in college, a sophomore in college, when the September 11th attacks happened, and that was just such a tragedy, and just was so devastating to our country. And for me, being a teenager at that time in school, really got me thinking about what it is that I wanted to do, how I wanted to build a career. And it started getting me thinking about foreign policy in a way I never did before. I never was interested in foreign policy before September 11th in any serious way. Didn't even know where Afghanistan was. And but I just felt like I just kind of woke up and saw just how chaotic and crazy things were. I decided to just kind of jump in. It was from that moment on that I decided that I wanted to learn as much about foreign policy in the world that I could. I started studying that in school, taking classes, reading books, and decided that I'd like to try to be a diplomat, try to be someone working in foreign policy. So it was something that just became kind of a mission for me. And once I started working in government, I had the chance to work at the State Department as a diplomat, at the Pentagon. I was out in Afghanistan as a strategic advisor to the 4-star general there. I was at the White House. I just loved it. I love serving. I love serving this country. I love being able to represent this country. And, I love being able to meet so many different people and have so many different experiences, travel the world and have those experiences. So it was amazing. And I never thought that I would run for Congress, but I try to think about this job in the same way as the other jobs that I've had in my career, which is about public service. So, that was kind of how it was for me. I just really got bitten by the bug and got really excited about what it is that I can do and what I can step up for. And being able to, have those incredible experiences as a son of immigrant to then become, a diplomat that got to travel the world and represent the United States. That was a dream come true.
We can't be blind to the hate crimes against Asian Americans since the COVID pandemic began, and how it's been escalating, and over time, especially with the recent scholar shootings in Atlanta. 4 out of the 6 Asian women who were killed were identified as Korean Americans, and I'm assuming, and I guess, like, as both of us being Korean Americans, I think that kind of reaches us on a different level. But going into what Congress is doing right now, I want to know, like, what certain legislation or what progress has been made in order to combat AAPI hate crimes and other incidents.
Yeah, so you're right. I mean, the Atlanta shooting was really devastating. And I actually got invited down there 2 weeks after the shooting. Was down there to talk with the families of victims and with the Asian American and the Korean American communities down there. And it was really tough. It was one of the most powerful experiences of my career, going there and just seeing the raw hurt that the communities are going through. To hear from these families, I mean, these were families, Korean American families that were, their kids, their adult children that were roughly around my age, maybe a little younger. They were, talking to me about their mothers that were killed. Their mothers that were working so hard to be able to put food on the table and save for retirement. Their Korean American mothers that cooked awesome Korean food for the kids and for their friends. I mean, it sounded like my parents, just hard-working immigrants who were just trying to provide for the family. And I remember one victim, she said, mother worked too hard for it to end this way. Just worked so hard. Why did it have to end in this kind of tragedy? So it was hard to hear. And they would look me in the eye and they asked me, what are you going to do about this? What can you do in Congress to be able to stop this violence and stop this discrimination that's happening? And I'll be honest, it's hard to come up with the right answer, because yes, we're taking some steps. We have some bills in Congress that we're hoping to pass into law. There's a COVID-19 hate crimes bill that'll try to add more resources to places all over this country to investigate and follow up on hate crimes, especially those related to COVID and Asian American discrimination. There's a No Hate Act, which is, again, trying to give more resources to local law enforcement and elsewhere to be able to follow up and eventually be able to try to stop some of these hate crimes from happening. So those are obviously important. But when you take a step back, you recognize that there's no single law that we can pass that's going to, rid our country of racism and hate. The problems that we're facing right now, this deep-seated racism. I mean, we've had this for a long time. We have systemic racism that the Black community has faced for hundreds of years. The AAPI community has faced this level of just what I call the shadow of foreignness that kind of hovers over us. My family's been here in the United States for 50 years, yet still to this day, people question, whether or not we speak English and whether or not, we are fully American. It's very frustrating, and that's not something that I can just legislate away. So yes, we're making progress. We're hoping to be able to pass some of these bills into law, hopefully this month. I've talked to the White House about that, and we're certainly hoping to move that forward quickly. But like I said, even with that, there's still going to be challenges, and we still need to make sure that we're working together as a community to try to address that.
I do thank you for at least attempting to try to make change on the congressional level. But going off of that, I wonder how do you find common ground, and when you discuss passing this bill or whatever Asian hate crime bill that you passed. When you talk to your Republican counterparts, how do you find and establish like a bipartisan effort? There are reports saying that some people think that systemic racism isn't real, and they are denying the severity of the Asian American, hate crime issue. So I wonder how you reach across the aisle to find a sense of common ground with your Republican counterparts.
I think it starts by what you and I are doing right now, which is having a conversation and try to educate and inform. As you said, May is AAPI Heritage Month, and what I'm trying to do is I feel like I need to learn more about AAPI history here in the United States too. I mean, it's not something I felt like I was really taught in school. There's a great PBS 5-part documentary if people are interested. I've been making my way through it. It's incredible at telling the rich history. I mean, I think we need to be educated more. We need to be educated more about APIs in this country. We need to understand and respect and be proud of the contributions. And in that way, that's the way that we get seen and heard. And that's the way that we get to be better understood as part of the necessary and critical fabric of this country. It's when we get taken for granted. It's when people don't think about us or don't see or hear us that they don't think that there's a problem, that they don't understand what it is that people are going through. And you're right, I have some colleagues that seem to refuse to admit that there's a problem or there's a challenge. And I find that deeply frustrating. They think that what we're trying to raise about API challenges and discrimination, that this is just politics, but it's not. And people are really hurting. And when you see the attacks, especially against elderly Asian Americans, I mean, it's brutal. It's really tough to watch. I just saw a video of someone using a hammer to attack Asian Americans. Just really gruesome and brutal things that deserve to be focused on and tried to address to keep people safe. So I try to engage in a bipartisan way. It's by nature something I do. I worked as a diplomat. I worked under both Republicans and Democrats. I'm really not a political person when it comes down to it in terms of just the partisanship side. I'm just trying to figure out solutions that can help our community. And the community I represent is, very divided between Republicans and Democrats. President Trump ended up winning my congressional district twice. So this is a district that actually has sort of a more conservative lean. But I've been able to be reelected twice in part because I'm just trying. People see me as someone who's trying to build bridges, trying to heal our broken politics, and trying to figure out how we can work together in a better way rather than what we see, which is just the knife fighting and the yelling that we often see, in the news about what's happening in DC. I try not to do that. Instead, just try to figure out how we can focus on ideas. So yes, there are some Republicans that I've been able to work well with. There are some that I struggle significantly to work with. And, but, hopefully we'll be able to just keep trying to improve that. I do have to say, in the Senate, they passed the COVID-19 hate crimes bill, which is the bill to try to help protect Asian Americans, by a vote of 94-1. So that does give me greater hope that that more and more people are seeing this challenge. I do not think that bill would have passed at all in the Senate last time around, like last year. So I think this is an improvement, significant improvement. It shows that people are starting to see more and more of the challenges that are out there.
What do you think and what do you see in the future of the AAPI community? And I guess we kind of answered this a little bit. What can people like me and other Asian Americans and just Americans in general, what can we do to, I guess, continue having, these types of talks on social issues, and what can we do better in order to move forward as one united front?
Yeah. So first of all, get educated, as I said. Watch that PBS 5-part documentary on Asian Americans, or read some great books. There's a great book by Erica Lee about the Asian American experience and others. They're great resources out there. Please do that. Watch the movie Minari that won some Oscars. Beautiful film about Korean American family, struggling, trying to make it here in this country. Very touching. Just try to get informed and educated and connecting in, even for Asian Americans to understand more about our history and our experience. Also, it's about building wide coalitions, that we stand up for each other, that we stand up for against hate in all forms. And I participated and brought my kids to protests in the aftermath of George Floyd's murder. I think that was important that we showcase that we're not only just interested in standing up for those that look like us or have our heritage or background. We stand up for everybody, and we stand up against the hate and, again, all forms. That kind of mentality and attitude is so important because it helps make sure that we can understand the pain of others and the struggles that others are going through, and make sure that we're not being selfish, that we're finding ways to be able to have the empathy to reach out to others, to understand what they're going through. And I think that that's ultimately what helps us sustain this, so that it's not just that we're reacting to headline news and tragedies, but instead get to a place where we can sustain a level of commitment and attention to this important problem. Because that's the only way we're going to solve it, is that if we can sustain attention on this. So also just pay attention to what we're doing in Congress, in government. If you support these bills, give your member of Congress a call, give my office a call, give someone else's call. It's helpful for us to know that people are paying attention and listening. It's a way of just active participation in our democracy. So please stay informed, stay educated, stay engaged, and continue to build that coalition. Reach out to other people to be able to inform and educate them as well.
It's about relieving that tension and understanding, being informed and understanding what we need to do as a community to move forward rather than to be divided. And I hope that you continue to influence people in your district, as well as just people in the country as well. You've done a lot of work overseas, and now you're at Capitol Hill. So continue the hard work that you do. And yeah, so that wraps it up for this conversation. Thank you so much.